Hi, my name is JW and this is my path to OSCP. It's been a few days. I was planning on making a vlog yesterday, but during my enumeration I found a big, fat, juicy target that I couldn't refuse. I stopped reading my Nmap report and basically I had to try and penetrate that target. And thankfully I was quite successful. I didn't manage to root it yet, but I did manage to get through a web server, get a low privilege shell, then managed to do privilege escalation, and from that escalated into another user, not root yet. But from that I was able to do some steps that allowed me to actually discover a new network, a new subnet that's behind a firewall. I was so freaking excited. I was literally jumping up and down here, basically trying to hold my breath so that I'm not screaming and so forth. And unimaginable excitement levels, so bloody good. So I was able to actually then pivot to that firewall network and get a really low privilege shell, basically spawned from a notepad in another program. I'm not able to touch files or anything. I did find the first red herring though, because basically I did a small search for files and I found proof.exe, proof.txt, and I was like, yes, how can this be? I'm so low privileged. And basically it said try harder inside. Damn you, offensive security. But I'm so driven. I was so bummed last night when I had to go to bed and stop doing that. Thankfully it was a repeatable way to get in. So today I've been trying to crack it. I haven't been able to, but at least one thing I have been doing, and I'm currently doing it, there's an Nmap scan running in the background. I'm using proxy chains to basically do the Nmap scan from the compromised host on the inside of that firewall. So hopefully I will be able to find new machines there and new information about things I haven't seen before and potentially get a foothold on that side of the firewall. But that said, I haven't been able to root these machines, so I don't have any sort of good privileges yet. Just a semi-awkward way of getting in, but I mean, a way is a way. Other things I wanted to talk about, this might be a little choppy. I need to talk about a few different things. One interesting fact is that these skills that I've been learning have already come in handy and have been useful at work. For example, I was debugging an issue with Windows networking, some issue with HTTP and HTTPS not working correctly on specific internal sites, and I knew that the client wouldn't allow me to install Wireshark because it's basically a third-party tool, and they had very, very limited or very strict security policies for that. But using netsh tracing, I was able to use Windows built-in tools to basically do the Windows packet capture and then use Microsoft tools to view that packet capture and be able to decode the problems and actually debug the issue. So already proving very useful in real-world scenarios. Another thing I'm noticing, my mindset is starting to change. For example, when I noticed in a CM installation, I noticed that there was a FTP brute forcing attempt going on. My first instinct previously would have been, okay, how do I stop this? How do I limit this? How do I mitigate the amount of logins that a single IP can do, and so forth. That would have been my blue team response, like, how to stop this attacker, oh no. But now, because I'm on the other side in my lab time, my first instinct was go grab the FTP banner and do a search exploit, basically, which does an exploit DB search for that banner to see, does that already tell me that this is a vulnerable version? Are we disclosing version information? Are we disclosing some information that doesn't require brute forcing? Are we potentially hosting a version of a service that might be exploitable? That was my first instinct, to check that. So I'm really enjoying this change of perspective. Another thing I've enjoyed is the fact that we use this CM tool also has a vulnerability scanner in it, which is basically OpenVAS, that we also have some exercises for in this course. And one of the things I've enjoyed about this is that I can now make more sense of those vulnerability reports, because something previously, for example, having a certain Windows port open would tell you that, okay, an attacker could enumerate what services are running, and I wouldn't have been able to deduce what's the harm. Like, I would know a gut feeling that, okay, yeah, disclosing information about the versions of things or what is even running is bad, but I wouldn't have known how you could potentially exploit that, like not like literal hands-on experience. So this is really, really useful to giving me that sort of perspective. Also, I've been with this pivot that I was able to do. I did rely semi-heavily on Metasploit. I know I said before that I would try to stay away from it, because basically it's not allowed for the most part in the exam. But Offensive Security themselves state in the start of the PDF that yes, we know that Metasploit is restricted, not forbidden, but restricted in the exam, but the students shouldn't limit themselves in the labs. The labs are for learning, maximizing your learning. And that's how I've basically, some might say justify it, but I figured that it seems reasonable. I have very limited time. I would rather try a dozen different techniques with Metasploit automatically. Of course, I'm doing some manual thinking in between. I'm not just running it on auto pwn or whatever. I'm choosing the things I want to try, but then the actual attempt, the payload crafting, all of that is done automatically by Metasploit, and within like a few minutes I will usually know whether or not a certain type of attack will work. Like, Metasploit has better understanding or has a better automation to figure out whether my targets are vulnerable or not. It can do this fast and efficiently, because basically I can't do that. I have very little experience in crafting exploits, so it would take me several hours to test it, and if it doesn't work the first time, I can't know whether it's because my exploit is misconfigured, I have some bad bytes in my shell code, I don't have the listener set up correctly, I have the wrong offset in my instruction pointer, whatever. There's a dozen different things that can go wrong. And not having experience and not having someone to give me information, check it, or even debug the remote process, it's quite impossible for me to know whether this is not working because I made a mistake or the target isn't vulnerable. And I could be spending maybe days doing it until I've realized, hey, this doesn't work. But Metasploit will tell me that in 5 minutes. It will tell me it doesn't work. Of course, there are times when I should be potentially changing the Metasploit payloads or the actual offsets or whatever. But at least I'm able to enumerate different types of attacks against targets easily with Metasploit. What my thought was that once I get in, once I see that some sort of attack works, I want to come back and then exploit that manually. I want to perfect the technique so that I can do it without the crutches of that is Metasploit. But for now, for me, it would seem like a shame that certain machines would be out of the scope basically because I didn't have the manual know-how from the get-go to get to those sneaky places. Like this firewall, I would have spent probably several nights trying to find the perfect exploit that allowed me to get pivot into this network. And I don't know what's behind that firewall yet. My nmaps are still running, but potentially I could have missed out on all of those machines due to lack of time and so forth. But now I'm able to have more targets to learn more vulnerabilities, and then hopefully I'll have time to revisit all of them and do manually the attacking. On a related note, I really should be starting my lab report on these first machines. I currently have 2 Windows boxes, 1 Linux box, and those are fully rooted. And then I have a semi-root or a privileged user but not the root user on one box, and then the very low privilege shell on that pivoted box. Hopefully that will expand soon. Most of the time I've spent today and yesterday has been on that pivot attempt. I believe that there are lower hanging fruit still in the main public subnet that I should be attacking, but this is just such a juicy target that I want to get there. But I will probably tomorrow continue reading the nmap scan report I was telling you about last time. Finish that, finish my notes, and then just start somehow prioritizing those targets to the easiest looking targets. Attempt those, try to get root, move to the next one. If it isn't easy, move forward and check. There should be something that's really easy. Well, my first target was really easy. I've gotten in like 3 different ways now, thanks to scanning the network. Yeah, one cool thing, I'm going to link a nice Metasploit minutes YouTube video also on this post that I spotted from my watch later. I've put that on the watch later list like, I don't know, 6 months ago, maybe a year ago, I don't know. But I finally got around to watching it, and it was really, really good. Basically teaching how to use web delivery for exploits, how you can route your Metasploit traffic through a session that you have connected, and then how to run a SOX proxy in your Metasploit that you can then combine with proxy chains to do, for example, nmap or whatever traffic through your session. So I'm now able to do the nmap through the proxy chains in that firewalled computer. And last but not least, this is quite recent. This is actually from this month. This guy website is anandpraka.sh is writing a small report on how he got $15,000 from Facebook bounty, bug bounty. Basically, he noticed that you do a password reset and you need to provide a PIN code that Facebook has sent you. And of course, on the public site, there's a rate limiting for how often can you try to brute force this PIN code. But he found that on a specific beta site, and I don't know what the other, some sort of demo site or developer site, the rate limiting hadn't been configured correctly. So he was able to brute force this 6-digit PIN easily, and was able to set his own account's password to something else without going through his own email. So he was basically able to bypass this mechanism. And it just goes to show two very, very crucial things that I've learned here, and also I've seen in practice in real life during doing security audits. And one is security misconfigurations are the biggest threat to anything. Like, not 0 days, misconfigurations. Because misconfigurations, to be fixed, require knowledgeable and motivated sysadmins. And if they don't give a crap, they're not going to care enough about configuring things correctly and keeping an eye on them. And second, beta/demo/example sites are something that you should keep not connected to your production data. Like, the beta sites shouldn't have production data. They should have dummy data somehow, and you shouldn't be able to brute force stuff on the demo site that could potentially disclose information from the production site. I don't know whether he was able to disclose information from the production site, or was it just basically him discovering a misconfiguration, and that was already worth the 15,000. But you would assume that things like rate limiting for APIs, especially like password resets and security conscious things, would be configured really, really tightly, especially on Facebook and Gmail and so forth. But that just goes to show the attacker mentality. Don't assume anything. Poke it with a stick, see if it breaks. If it doesn't, enumerate to the next target. Simple as that. I think that's it. I'm looking forward to the weekend so I can spend many, many hours trying to pivot, trying to get into boxes. Talk to you later. Thanks.